right, welcome. This is another episode of Being Well with Beth, and I am graced with the presence of two lovely individuals that I have known over the last couple of years, and I will let the two of you introduce yourselves first.
Well, I'm lovely. I don't know about him. No, I'm kidding. I'm Brandis Friedman. I am a correspondent and co-anchor for Chicago Tonight. It is the news show on PBS, the local PBS affiliate, WTTW, Channel 11.
And I am Jason Friedman. I think I'm happily married to Brandis for the last almost 15 years, but I don't know based on that. I'm the executive director of a nonprofit in Chicago called I'm Mentor, which works directly with high school students, trying to help them navigate their path to and through college.
Perfect. So I think for today's topic, we're talking about social capital, which a lot of times people, when they think of wellness, they just think of running a marathon or eating healthy. But in reality, wellness encompasses a lot of different dimensions, and thinking about that, social capital, social wellness is one of them. And some folks might be wondering how we met one another, and really it has to do with that social wellness piece. Is when I moved to Illinois in 2016, I sort of thought, okay, I don't know anybody besides maybe one or two people. Like how do I meet people? How do I meet families? How do I really engage myself in the community? Because I lived in Iowa my entire life, and so we know Iowa is it's a great place, but I really wasn't exposed to a lot of different experiences and a lot of different opportunities. So for me, that was like a big jump for me to move from Iowa to Illinois. And I met the two of you through Sitter City. I was like, you know what, I got to do things a little differently. And so I joined a gym, tried to make friends, got on Sitter City to meet different families, and really engage myself with the community. And I also enjoy kids, so that was the perfect match. And so thinking about that, I thought the two of you were the perfect match to kind of talk about the topic today, just based off of our relationship, but also the experience you all have with your jobs, your careers, and even your own personal lives. So today we are talking about social capital, which brings me to my first question is, as you think about your own careers and life experiences, what are some ways in which you were able to strengthen your social capital at different points in your lives? And why were those moments or opportunities important for you?
Sure. You want to go first?
Sure, I can. So a few things, like professionally, I think about, maybe, I don't know, maintaining the relationships that you make with people along the way, right? So maybe it is a college professor, maybe it is, if you're in school, maybe it's a boss at an internship, or just, someone that you work with, not necessarily a boss, but somebody that you work with, who you respect and admire, who supports you as well and can support you. Even when I leave, I've moved around a lot, obviously, Jason and I both have. And so maintaining contact with the folks you left. But like you said, Beth, when you're moving to a new city, you have to get creative about how you meet new people. And you're not trying to make a best friend necessarily, but, you have to build the support system where you are. And so the way I've done that a few different ways is, when I left Washington, D.C., for example, when we moved to Chicago, I was proud of the network of folks that I had built there, but the only folks I hadn't were family, really, in opposite sides of the city. And so a number of folks in DC signed up with different people that they knew here, and that's one good way to start. So every invitation to a coffee or a dinner, I took folks up on it. If you know absolutely no one and no one has bothered to put you in touch, I always kept an eye out for an event. So sometimes I'd go to an event or something alone, and you never know who you're going to meet there. I complain a lot about meeting so-and-so for coffee, but really that's one way to build capital, right? Like, you don't have to meet this person for coffee every 2 weeks, and that kind of encroaches on your schedule, obviously, but you've established that relationship with that person, and you can call on them later on when you need something.
You just went to those events for the free drinks.
I did go to the event.
Yeah, that's fair.
I was actually thinking about a very specific moment in my career, which happened very early on. And I think if not for relationships, I think my career trajectory would have looked really, really different. So Brandis and I met, we were both TV reporters, and like a lot of people right now are experiencing, about 5 years into doing the work, things I think were going well. Conventionally, I was successful. I always had this sort of nagging sense that I wanted to do something else. And then I got a kick in the butt in the form of a layoff. There were layoffs at my TV station. We were just on the verge of getting engaged, and I did not know exactly what to do. And it took a minute, and I really leaned heavily into my network to figure that out, and had lots and lots of conversations with people that I met along the way, just asking advice, asking about their own career paths. And it ended up being that one of the people I had met as a reporter in Little Rock, Arkansas, of all places, somebody who worked in politics, connected me to my next job, which is really what put me on the path that I've been on for the last 14 years. So I think like if there's like a takeaway from that, it's just to be really, really present in those relationships. For it to not feel super transactional. We're all really busy and have a lot to do. So to try to leave an impression. When you might need something or that person might need something, there's already kind of the foundation of a relationship to draw upon.
And I've already deviated from my questions I was going to ask you, but thinking about that, I know for me, like personality wise, I am fairly outgoing, but I know not everyone feels comfortable in those environments. So do you have any thoughts for folks who might be a little apprehensive about how they might go about, meeting new people or engaging in some of those conversations?
Yeah. I think one thing that folks have today that when we were starting out in our career, it wasn't quite as ubiquitous, is like there are so many online platforms and ways to connect. So you still might feel a little nervous sending that first email or trying to connect with somebody on LinkedIn, but it feels a lot less daunting than like picking up the phone or showing up at somebody's office. So I think that helps. And then I guess the other thing that I think about, especially in this moment, like I would just encourage people to be absolutely fearless. Like don't be like mercenary and mean and impolite with folks, but I think there are so many people, especially people like us, who have gotten help along the way from really caring individuals who really want to help young folks. So I would just say, take that deep breath, make that request, and there's a really good chance that the answer is going to be yes.
And I mean, I would add on to that, just that in the last month or so, I've gotten a lot of messages from young students who want to get into journalism, and I don't know them, but I admire the fact that they are willing to like just send me a message and see if I'll respond, because that shows initiative. And so I think, if it can be a little bit scary, but if you're willing to do that, well, I mean, you don't really have anything to lose by sending a message and asking someone to connect with you.
I mean, typically rejection is in the form of somebody not responding. It's not them like coming back and yelling at you.
Right.
That's fair.
It doesn't hurt.
No.
Jason, you kind of mentioned a couple of these, but are there any do's and don'ts of maybe building connections or meeting new people?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd go back to like this idea of it not being transactional. So like you might have an idea in your mind, like, oh, this person can really help me get an internship or introduce me to more people in this field. But like ultimately, like it starts with a relationship. So like little things. If you're sending an email or connecting with somebody on LinkedIn, especially in a moment like right now, what we're all going through, like I wouldn't like launch it immediately, be like, I'm a second-year student at blah, blah, blah with a whatever GPA. Like, let's connect as human beings. Like, I hope you're doing all right, everything considered. I was reaching out to you because I was really impressed by X, Y, or Z in your background. Like, connect as a human being first. That feels really important. And then I think like with any relationship, including marriage, it takes like constant care and feeding. Like, of course, it looks different when it's a man or a connection and somebody in your social realm, but like don't wait for when you need that person to be a reference. Like try to check in occasionally. And again, like with all of like the online like pings, like LinkedIn tells you when it's somebody's work anniversary or they've moved a job. there's so many ways to stay connected to folks.
Do you have anything to add, Brandis? Oh, just what you said. Ditto. Perfect. So a follow up to that is, as my own personal experience as a first generation and low income student, I wasn't always exposed to some of the same social connections or opportunities throughout my life as some of my classmates were. And I don't think that became apparent to me until I was in graduate school. And however, I also recognize that my white privilege also probably opened up doors for me, even though I might have not outright known it. And so with that in mind, do you have any advice or thoughts specifically for first generation and or underrepresented students or low income students in terms of different ways in which they can build social capital, especially as many of those students don't always start out with the same type of resources some of their classmates might be exposed to?
I would say some of the same stuff, right? Like maintaining the connections, because if you're fortunate enough to be in school, keep an eye out for the professors and the staff and the instructors with whom you can maintain those relationships later on. Same thing with if you have an internship, like maintaining relationships with those folks. It's interesting you say, Beth, like you were first generation and low income. I was not first generation to go to college. We weren't technically low income, but I still had the same experience when I got to graduate school, realizing that I was in school with folks who had experiences, just life experiences that were far different from mine, and maybe that's just a factor of grad school. There are a lot more different kinds of people there, but I think it's kind of the same for all of us, right? Like if you're in school, use that, and use the whatever job opportunities you get. I mean, that's professors, the folks in the career office, they should all be able to help you. That's what they're there for.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of name it, I'm a white guy. Surprise. So there's a lot that like I won't pretend to understand about what that looks like. But we work with a lot of first gen kids. That's really built into the mission of I Mentor. Most of the folks on my team are first generation. And when I think about their experiences and where they've been the most successful, I think that's one big piece of it. It's like just know that there are so many people and resources at your disposal, and 99% of them want to help. So I would say just be proactive and reach out. And I know, I think for all of us, but especially for first generation student, imposter syndrome is a real thing. And I'd go back to what I said before, like just be fearless. Like this is about you. This is about your family that helped get you to this point. This is about your kids one day, right? You're on this path and you've got one shot to kind of tell your story. Just be fearless. I hope, and I hope that it increases, that we're going to see more and more and more yeses from people when young people want to reach out for assistance and connections.
Which I can totally relate to the imposter syndrome, because I remember in grad school, my first day, I was just listening to where people came from in terms of their undergrad, and I was like, is someone gonna walk in and be like, BT dubs, we made a mistake. Like, you're not supposed to be here. I'm like, oh gosh, like, so totally relate. And even
I think we've all, right? Everybody's had that experience. Some people with more frequency and probably more depth than others, but like everybody.
I still do it in my daily job. I'm like, okay, I'm not sure what I'm doing.
That commencement address I gave last year, remember? Oh, hi, thank you. Oh, do you want to say hi to Beth really quick? Sorry, do you mind, Beth?
No.
Hi.
Hi, Blake.
Look how big this kid is.
Oh my gosh, your teeth. Let me see.
This is for you.
You lost your tooth.
We'll get this to you. He did.
We're working on another one.
Working on more, and he's wearing gloves. What's your brother doing? Okay, we'll make sure she gets it.
I don't know if you have editing capabilities. Right? That happened.
From the computer. Okay, thank you, sweetie. Okay, we'll be there in a minute, honey.
No idea.
Motherhood. Don't worry about it.
Pandemic life,
Yeah.
Okay, so this will be my last question, and this question is more directed at Brandis. As we know, women are often presented with even more challenges in comparison to their male counterparts when it comes to building social capital in the workplace for a variety of different reasons, such as raising their families, left out of different conversations and opportunities, and a variety of other social pressures we often have to manage along the way. So anything you would tell women more specifically, Brandis?
I mean, I don't know, we talk about imposter syndrome, right? And so I would say don't doubt yourself. And I know we all do it, right? Doubt is not, or imposter syndrome, it's not specific to women, but I feel like we experience it more probably. I remember once at, just a few things that come to mind. I remember once I was at in NABJ, National Association of Black Journalists convention years ago, and there was a panel with several, successful women in the business talking about, just being a woman in the business and, having your families and that kind of stuff. One of the women on the panel was Soledad O'Brien, which is probably why the room was so full. Former CNN anchor, she produces a lot of other stuff now. And, one of the things I took away from that panel was don't let other folks decide for you. So speak up for yourself and make sure that you're making your own choices and your own decisions about what you're going to do and what you can't do. One of the examples they used that day was, oh, we can't send so-and-so to cover the story, out of town. We can't send her to travel for whatever, because she's got all these kids. That's not your boss's decision to make for you. That's your decision to make. You decide whether or not you can do that and take that time away from your family, and whether or not you're set up for it. And obviously that's all up to you. So don't let them make those choices for you. I think one thing that we're all learning lately is don't be afraid to call it out when you see the unfairness or the injustice, specifically related to women. There's been a little bit of thunder, sorry. Talk. In recent years, about equal pay and women making so much less than men. And I don't know what, other folks make beyond what I do, but one thing I've learned in the last year or so is to speak up for yourself with regards to, whether or not you're getting what you need out of where you work, and whether it's the assignments or the particular duties that you would like to be doing that you think you can do, whether you think you're getting paid what you're worth. Don't be afraid to speak up for yourself about those things. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna go get him, or do you want to go get him?
Perfect.
Okay, I'm gonna go get the baby.
Okay. All right.
That's juggling family. That's exactly what we were just talking about.
It is real. It is very, very real.
And do you have anything else to add, or any lasting thoughts as we think about connections and social capital, social wellness?
I don't think anything. Oh, baby. I don't think anything super brilliant. But I think you model a lot of it, Beth, for real. I think you're super genuine and warm, and I think that's part of it too. It's not rocket science. There's no Harvard Business online 32-part tutorial on building social capital. I think a lot of it's common sense and showing up as a caring human being. So if tomorrow you were to reach out to me or Brandis and you needed something or a connection, we would do it in a heartbeat. And that's because you probably weren't being crazy strategic and mapping out how do I deepen my relationship with the Friedmans. It's because you show up as an authentic and caring human being, and that's what makes the world go round.
Well, thank you, and I've so appreciated my relationship with your entire family, and I think going into watching Blake, I didn't think it would transform into this wonderful relationship that we have now, that now I know Miles and Blake. And so I think that's the beauty in building social capital, is it's not just about what you can gain from it, but it's really about that fulfillment throughout your life, and really genuinely meeting people and understanding people who might be different from you. And so I think I didn't know what I was getting into, and I'm so thankful that I, just searched, and now I know Blake. So, anything else to add, Brandis?
No, I just caught the end of it. I'm glad that we can, obviously we loved having you as part of our family, and you still are, and so I'm grateful that it's useful for you too, and that you found it gratifying as well, because we love having you as a part of it. So.
Well, I love the Friedman, so thank you for your time, and I will chat with you later. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Beth. Take care.
Bye.
Wait, can you say bye?
Bye.